Hello my dears, and welcome back to my corner of the internet. I'm Shannon, and today I have another book talk video to share with you guys. And at first I was feeling like it's been a hot minute since we've done one of these, but it was actually only a few weeks ago, because we've been doing so much vlogging and spoiler-free reviews of books that haven't come out yet. I feel like the book talks kind of have become a little less frequent, but I'm happy to report we are here with one tonight, and it is Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. Now, I was gifted this book by my friend Brandy here on YouTube, who I've come to know and appreciate so much, and every time she comments or we interact on any social media, I just love it so much. And she actually sent this book to me because she read it and she loved it, and she wanted me to read it too, so she sent it to me through my Amazon wish list, which I'll link down below in case you are interested, but never feel pressured or obligated to. You definitely do not have to, but I just appreciated this so much, and I had so much fun reading it. Now, this was my fourth Riley Sager book. I've read Survive the Night, Across the Lake, or The House Across the Lake, and The Only One Left, and I've enjoyed them all. Some he stays a little closer to the cuff, some he goes completely off the rails. Loved both of those scenarios, because a book being ridiculous and completely crazy does not deter me. I will still love it if it's, you know, well told or I enjoy it. This one stayed a little closer to the cuff, which I appreciated and enjoyed. So first I'll give you kind of a broad synopsis, and then we'll get more into the spoilers, because in the book talks we go kind of more point for point through the book and talk about beginning, middle, and end. So Lock Every Door is about a woman named Jules. She's going through it. She gets laid off from her job. This all happens in one day. She gets laid off from her job. She goes home to her apartment and sees that her boyfriend, like long-term boyfriend, is with some woman in her living room on her couch, like in the home she shared with him. He is having an affair on the couch. Like, they didn't even make it to the bedroom. So she leaves. She has nowhere to go. She goes and she crashes on her friend Chloe's couch, but like, that's not a suitable long-term solution. So one day she's reading the paper, or she's online or something, and she sees an advertisement, and it's a building, a historic building in New York called the Bartholomew, and they're looking for an apartment sitter. So she applies for the job, she gets an interview, and now a few things to know about Jules is she's alone in the world aside from her friend Chloe. When she was 17, her older sister Jane went missing. She just vanished, never to be seen from again. And then a few years later, her parents both died, so she is alone in this world. And obviously her very bad day has happened. And one thing to know about her is that she loves this one particular book and the author, and it was a book that her sister would read to her. She just loves it. She loves it so much. I, of course, now can't remember the title of the book, even though you see that title 100 times. But yeah, of course, I can't remember. We'll just call it The Book from here on out. So she goes for her interview. She's shown the apartment. It's gorgeous, like beyond her wildest dreams. She's told that the elderly woman who lived there before her passed away. Her family is fighting over who gets the apartment. And while they're doing that, the management of the building needs someone occupying it. They just need someone there to care for the apartment until it's ready to be sold. So, you know, she's told, we're gonna pay you for 3 months tenancy, $4,000 a month. So she's gonna make $12,000 in these 3 months. And she is ecstatic about this, because she's like, this is exactly what I need to be able to go and restart my life away from my scoundrel of a boyfriend. He'll give me a little bit of time to find a new job and I can get a place to live. There are rules to living in this apartment. One is you can never have a guest, ever. You can't sleep. So not only can no one come visit you, you can't sleep away. You have to be in the apartment every night alone. You can't bother the existing tenants because a lot of them, they're either really wealthy or they're celebrities, and the rule is just you do not talk to them. You don't talk to them, you don't look at them, you don't do anything. So Jules is like, sounds weird, but okay, because $12,000 is a ton of money. A ton of money to just live in an apartment. A high-end luxury apartment in New York City, like in Manhattan. And the vibes of this building are like, you know, like the Dakota and other like historical buildings in New York. I really loved the vibes of the whole thing. And so that's kind of where we're at. Jules is going to be staying in the building, making a crap ton of money doing nothing, while she tries to get her life back on track. While there, she meets a couple of the tenants, specifically a few of the other apartment sitters, because surprisingly there are other apartments sitting empty that need to be watched. One girl is this like really kind of fun, friendly, sort of free-spirited girl named Ingrid, who at one point Jules has a physical accident with in the lobby that ends up with her cut. But she meets Ingrid, she likes her a lot, and then eventually Ingrid goes missing. Jules and Ingrid had plans every day to meet up for lunch at this one particular spot in the park. And Ingrid goes missing. And that kind of sets off the catalyst for the entire story. Now, what I'll tell you about this story before we move on to the spoilers, and I tell you to get out of here if you haven't read it yet and still want to, is that very early on, I knew who done it. Like, I feel like that's not hidden. They don't try to, or not they, Riley Sager doesn't try to hide the who. When that's revealed, it's not a big shock. But piecing together the why, I thought was really interesting, and I enjoyed it a lot. Once I got about halfway through, I couldn't stop reading. I needed to know what was going on and why. And the confirmation of who, I was like, okay. But then putting all the pieces together, I thought was really fun, and I enjoyed it a great deal. So if you don't want any spoilers, now's the time. I love the color on this. It sort of reminds me of the cover for The Return by Rachel Harrison, if you've read that. The colors and just the vibes in general are the same. So yeah, if you don't want any spoilers, now's the time to click away. I thank you for watching, and I'll see you again real soon. For those of you left, let's get on into it a little bit. A lot of it is trying to find things out. You know, the plot isn't huge. It's a lot of like trying to piece together puzzles. As she's trying to piece it together, we're also trying to piece it together. There are a big cast of characters here. There's Leslie Evelyn, who is sort of the apartment manager who gives her all the rules. There's Ingrid and Dylan, who are two other apartment sitters. There's Nick, a doctor that lives in the building, who Jules meets when she ends up getting cut by Ingrid. There's the author of the book that I mentioned earlier that Jules and Jane loved when they were kids. And she's there. Her name's Greta. And she's lived in the Bartholomew for a long time, minus a period where she left, I think, to get married. But now she's back. Nick's the doctor. He's lived there for generations. Or his family's lived there for generations, I should say. There's a soap opera actress, I think her name was Marion, who lived there with her little dog Rufus. So we're just sort of meeting these cast of characters, and you just know something bad's going on. You know something nefarious is happening. Some similar media I can compare it to. It kind of gave me, in some ways, Only Murders in the Building type vibes. Also, Lucy Foley's The Paris Apartment, similar. I gave this a higher rating than that book, but I think. But it was similar sort of vibes. I love sort of the, we live in a apartment building and something bad is happening sort of trope. So yeah, like I said, there's a lot of like trying to figure things out, especially when Ingrid goes missing. Because the night Ingrid goes missing, in her apartment, Jules hears a scream. And she goes down to see what's going on because she's worried. Ingrid opens the door, like very weirdly. And her responses to Jules' questions are very strange. And then the next morning she's gone. Leslie Evelyn says she left in the middle of the night. She must have found something else to do. But like, Jules knows that's not right, because just the day before they had plans to meet for lunch every day during their respective tenancies. And so the whole sort of, like, Jules only lives there for like 5 days before everything literally goes off the rails. So we get sort of shuffled between then, 5 days, 4 days, 3 days, 2 days, 1 day ago, and then the now. And so at the now portions of the book, we know that she has run out of the apartment building, was in an accident, and is now in a hospital. Or so we're led to believe. And it's just like, I'm just trying to think, like, just imagine what you would do in this situation. If you ended up in an apartment complex where they say they're going to pay you $12,000 for 3 months to live there, but Ingrid's gone missing. Jules finds out the woman who occupied the apartment sitter that occupied the apartment she's in now right before her has gone missing. She keeps finding out the history of more and more apartment sitters that have gone missing. So in the now chapter, she's in a hospital. She's talking to a doctor and a very kind nurse named Bernard, like my Halloween skeleton. And she's been hurt, and she's trying to explain to them what has been going on inside of the Bartholomew. She's trying to remain calm because she knows if she gets too worked up, she's going to sound crazy. No one's going to listen to her. She's trying to tell them that multiple people have gone missing and have been murdered in that building. Time goes on. Eventually she finds Ingrid, like in the before time. She finds Ingrid like the day or two before we're in the now period. And she finds Ingrid at a homeless shelter because she had been searching them. Because Greta had actually given her that idea. The author that lived in the book had given her that idea. Like, have you checked the hospitals? Have you checked the homeless shelters? She's like, no, but that's a great idea, so I'm going to go do that. So eventually, and at this point, we know things are off. So we know of all the women that have gone missing. Then we know that Dylan, another one of the apartment sitters, has gone missing at this point. She's been calling him. The more info she gets, the more she's trying to get in contact with him, and he's not returning her calls. And she was like, oh, great. He's gone. And that's kind of like a thing in the Bartholomew. Like, don't ask any questions. You will get in trouble if you ask questions. So anytime, she's starting to get really afraid, basically. Anyway. So she checked the homeless shelters, there was nothing. She befriends one of the ladies in the like nearest to her homeless shelter and sends her a picture of Ingrid, and she's like, if you see this woman, please call me. Eventually she gets the call. She's like, I think someone who matches your description is here, and I think you should come. So Ingrid's like, Jules is like, do not let her leave until I get there. She gets there, it's Ingrid. Ingrid fills her in on all the info. It's Nick, the doctor. Nick. It's Nick. He's, at this point, Jules thinks he's a serial killer, like he's killing these girls. But Ingrid was able to get away because since Jules came down and interrupted Nick, who was already in Ingrid's apartment, it gave Ingrid enough time to reach into her pockets and get her pepper spray. So once Jules left, because Ingrid was like, yeah, I'm fine, it's all good. Once Jules leaves, Ingrid is able to pepper spray Nick and get the hell out of there. But she's not able to take anything, not the money she saved, nothing. So eventually she ends up at the homeless shelter. And so Jules goes, and she's like, oh my God, thank God you're here. Because Jules had been texting Ingrid after Ingrid disappeared. texting her, nothing. No response. Eventually she gets one. But during the series of questions that she's asking Ingrid, she puts together that it's Nick. Because Ingrid had given Jules a nickname, Juju, for whatever reason. Just a terrible nickname. And so Jules asks, what's my nickname? If you're Ingrid, what's my nickname? And the response comes, it's a trick question. Jules is your actual given name. And that is something she has only told the Dr. Nick. Oh, because at this point she's slept with him. She's had sex with him and everything at this point. Now she's discovering he's probably a serial killer. So basically, she tells Ingrid, stay put, don't go anywhere. I'm going to come back tomorrow. And then me and you, we're going to get the hell out of here. So she goes back to the Bartholomew. And it's after that. We skip again to the now portions. And the thing that she realizes is eventually she wakes up fully in the hospital. And no one's around, and she pulls her body out of bed. It's very sore. We're like 4 days into the now. She's been in the hospital for 4 days. She pulls herself out of the bed. And remember, she's been telling these people everything that's been going on. She's been trying to tell them as she's been slipping in and out of consciousness. Now, she gets out of bed. There's no one around. She goes out into the hallway. She starts moving down the hallway. It's all white. There's no windows. She gets to the end. She opens the door, and there's a kitchen. And all of a sudden, she recognizes the decor. She recognizes everything, and she realizes she's still in the Bartholomew. Whoever found her in the road after her accident when she tried to get away had just brought her back to the Bartholomew. And you might be thinking, why is there a hospital set up in the Bartholomew? And well, that's the why of what's been going on. So Nick, the doctor, he's a doctor. His father was a doctor. His grandfather was a doctor. And his great-grandfather was the Bartholomew that built this building. So Nick's last name is Bartholomew, which we find out. So what he's been doing there for generations is they've been doing, it started with the Spanish flu. Nick's great-grandfather wanted to figure out why rich people were as susceptible to the flu as poor, nothing peons, is his opinion. So we get some sort of like class, some discussion on class. And so he starts running experiments on people, and this just continues on through the decades. With Nick now, what he's doing is he's offering rich people the opportunity to skip ahead in the lineup for surgeries or organ transplants or this or that if the price is right, if they can pay the money. And so what they've been doing in kidnapping these people who come to apartments is they're finding people who of certain blood types, of certain medical histories, with no families, who probably won't be missed if they go missing, and they're harvesting their organs for rich people by promising them $12,000 that they know they're never going to have to deliver because they're not going to make it to that point. So Jules wakes up in the hospital only to discover that one of her kidneys have been taken by Nick and the other doctor, Dr. Wagner, to give to Greta, the author that lives in the building that Jules loved so much. And they're like, next is going to be your liver because somebody needs it. Next is going to be your heart because Charlie, the doorman's daughter, needs it. And she is like, oh my God. So they keep coming in and giving her medication, sedatives to try to get her to calm down. And she keeps pretending like she's taking them. She has a moment where she's like, should I fight or should I just die? Because my whole family's dead. Like, I have nothing to live for. But then she's like, no, I have to live for them. So she's pretending to take these sedatives. She takes them, pretends she's asleep. The doctor and nurse leave, she takes them out. Eventually, she manages to get, she's left alone at a certain point when she's been able to snag a lighter from one of the nurses, and she sets the room on fire. She's just like, up it goes. So when the people rush in to see what's going on, she's hidden behind the door, and she's able to leave and lock them in. And then she goes into the full of the Bartholomew, she goes up to Nick's apartment. She finds Nick in there, and she ends up stabbing him because they have an exchange where he's like, listen, we're better than you. We're rich. You don't understand. We need your organs. You're nothing. We're rich. And eventually she stabs him with a knife, and then she manages to escape the building as it's burning. And once outside, she's in an ambulance, and then eventually she sees Nick come out of the building, but he's up on the roof, and he walks over and he jumps off, which is the same thing his great grandfather did after realizing, you know, the mess he had himself in. So she ends up being taken to the hospital. She's cleared of all charges because she tells them what was going on there, and they're like, yeah, good for you, as you should. So from there, she moves back in with Chloe. Chloe moves in with her boyfriend, so she kind of gives Jules her apartment. They open a GoFundMe for her, of which she donates a good portion of the $60,000 proceeds to the Missing Persons Fund. And she gets a job where she's going to be working there because, of course, still in the back of her mind, Jane, she wants to bring Jane home, and she's still, Ingrid's there, and they're hanging out all the time, and it's a nice ending. I wasn't expecting such like a happy ending, but I didn't hate it. So many books that I read have just terrible, miserable, sad endings, and I do love that, but I didn't mind, although it did seem awfully like tied up, but I enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was well written, well paced. And like I said, while I knew who did it, I didn't know the why. I certainly didn't think it was like this weird secret society with like weird medical experiments that have been going on for decades and generations. And I enjoyed it a lot. And yeah, so from there it just kind of ends with, I liked that Riley didn't try to shoehorn Jane's return somehow in there. Like, that was left, she's missing. Jules is going to keep searching for her and hoping and praying that she comes back, but she wasn't put in there somewhere. I was worried it was going to be like, and here's Jane. And I was like, So I liked that a lot. Anyway, it's super hot tonight, but I had to come on and tell you about it and say thanks again to my friend Brandy. I enjoyed this so much, and yeah, 5 stars for me. Loved it. I love the color. Anyway, I'm gonna go before I start melting on camera and get this posted, and I hope you guys had a great day and a great weekend. It's Sunday night as I'm recording this. I might post it as soon as I'm done editing tonight just to get it up for you guys, and I will see you guys again real soon. Bye.